Welcome back to Bazaar Morning Call. Well, the setup is quite bullish. Unfortunately, the Asian markets have come off their highs. In fact, they're virtually at the low point of the day. But the SGX Nifty is promising that we're going to be getting closer to that mark of 18,888 or so. But plenty of stocks to discuss. So let's get straight to that. Dipan Mehta of Elixir Equities joins us on the show. Hi, Dipan. Morning, Dipan. I wanted to ask you about Bajaj Auto. They're all set to roll out their Triumph. I believe pricing out here in India will be out on July 5th. The launch was in London yesterday. 400cc. Pricing is going to be very, very important, actually. How do you approach the stock from here on? I mean, the prospects are looking up, both of the domestic, the exports, and then you have this new launch as well that's coming in. And coupled with that, tell us what's the view on the Royal Enfield? Because that had no competition. Suddenly you have a couple of bikes that are coming in there.
Yeah, good morning, Nigel, and thank you for having me on your show. Again, we are back to our favorite topic about the Royal Enfield. And, I've been a fan of that company, Eicher Motors disclosure. We and our clients are invested. And of course, I think there has been competition from time to time. There was Java as well as some of the other motorcycles also, which tried to make a dent. But I don't think the numbers are anything to talk about. And same, I think, goes with Triumph as well, although I think Bajaj Auto will try their best in terms of putting their marketing muscle behind the product. But the market also is growing pretty well, and there is space for many more players to come in this particular leisure bike segment with 350cc and above. So I'm not too concerned about the impact of Triumph on Eicher Motors. Coming to Bajaj Auto, I think certainly last 2-3 quarters they have done well. The average selling price has gone up, because of which the margins also have improved. And I think after a lull, you may see exports also starting to pick up for the company. So generally positive for Bajaj Auto. But as I said, I think in the two-wheeler space, the big elephant in the room is the way the EV sales are moving up for scooters and motorcycles. So that's something which needs to be tracked.
So now there are two auto stocks in the last 24 hours. Dipan, you said you like Eicher Motors, and yesterday you told us about Landmark Cars. What about RK Forging? We're going to be getting the management very soon. The company is looking to diversify away from autos. They're getting into non-auto. They're focusing on exports to just hedge and diversify their business. Do you like RK Forging? Have you tracked the business?
Good morning, Rima. Not very closely, because basically any company which is going into engine parts, we are not doing a coverage on it, because clearly the writing on the wall is that EVs are the future. And when it comes to auto ancillary, we want to focus on companies which are in the electronic space, which offer infotainment, security, sensors, anything to go with the car interiors, which go towards premiumization of the car or the commercial vehicle per se. And keeping that in mind, with usual disclosure, we are more positive on companies like Sona BLW or Minda Industries, which is now called Uno Minda, or Minda Corp for that matter. Maybe even a Motherson Sumi or Motherson Wire also may be interesting, because they're all focused on electronics which go into the vehicle and not so much about engine parts.
Okay, Dipan, hi, good morning. Any views on around this HDFC Bank, even HDFC Life actually? HDFC Life was, of course, the big mover. The bank has bought shares yesterday, as we were pointing out. Nimesh highlighted on this sort of D-Street chatter as well. And they've got some more to go. I mean, I think they've got to buy another 0.6%. And that should happen over the next couple of days. Any thoughts on HDFC Life and the other two as well?
So I think HDFC Life is fairly valued, and if you're holding shares of HDFC Life, of course, I wouldn't want to sell. But if you want to make a fresh investment in the insurance space, I think LIC offers a far better risk-return profile. And the reason for that is that a lot of LIC's enterprise values derive from movement of stock prices, and I'm sure their portfolio has done well where the markets have moved up. So more positive on LIC than any insurance company at this point of time. Disclosure, of course, required over here. And when it comes to HDFC Bank, I think after many, many months, we are seeing the end of a very big event. One big uncertainty is out of the way for HDFC Bank shareholders. And I think that the first 1 or 2 quarters which come from the combined entity could be the inflection point where the underperformance of HDFC Bank starts to get reversed. And I expect that they could get into a leadership position as well. So in any case, I think a lot of portfolios do have HDFC Bank or HDFC as part of their core holding, top 2-3 or so. And that I think should move, that I think should improve the returns even further on the investors' portfolio. So very positive on this merger, and it's a great event within the banking space of India as well.
Any view, Dipan, on Narayana Hrudayalaya? The stock has run away. Kotak, they've come out with the note. They've downgraded the stock to reduce. Any view on it?
Yeah, we're very positive on the hospital space, the medical space. I think it's one industry where it's going to see secular growth for several years. I think that medical spending is going to increase gradually in India as the overall consumption spending starts to look up, and many more elective surgeries are going to take place, and more spending is going to take place from the families as well. So I think that a company like Narayana Hrudayalaya, which follow generally an asset-light business model, are going to have a great time in the next 4 or 5 years or so. Of course, they can get overpriced from time to time. You could have a soft quarter or two, but very positive on the space. And I wouldn't want to sell Narayana Hrudayalaya at this point of time just because it got a bit expensive. Last 2-3 quarters numbers have been very impressive. And the management has a very well thought out plan to expand their capacity. So very positive on Narayana Hrudayalaya.
Dipan, do stay on.
Dipan is still, of course, with us. Dipan, any thoughts on a name like, basically the NBFC space, 5-Star, for example? We had the management with us yesterday. 35% growth for the next 3 years is what their guidance is. Similar kind of growth guidance from smaller housing finance companies, etc., as well, like Home First. What do you like in this space?
Roshan, I think both these companies are very interesting. 5-Star Business, especially, I think the way they're going into tier 2, tier 3, I think that's their strategy to lend into SMEs into tier 2, tier 3. And it's got a great growth potential over there, limited competition. And the trick, of course, is to get the collection right and keep the NPs under control. And so far, I think they've done pretty well on that count. Stock, of course, is at a slight premium to the overall peer group, but the kind of growth rate that this company can generate, we're very positive on 5-Star. Same with Home First also. I think all these new generation NBFCs, they're not competing directly with the established players. They're trying to find their niche either geographically or in terms of the segment that they lend to. And there's immense potential when it comes to tier 2, tier 3, or to lend to the kind of population which is not that organized or not the non-salaried classes, I would say. Because that's where the challenges come in terms of determining their ability to repay. And if you got that formula right, I think the growth rates can be significantly higher. So positive on both these companies, and you could look at investing in them. These are great times for banks and BFCs, and smaller companies like this will certainly outperform the larger ones.
Any thoughts on something like Delta? Yesterday, Delta made a very sharp up move, 4% higher, pretty strong volumes. What's driving the stock move here?
See, the thing about Delta and Rima is that they are adding, I think, one more boat, and which is going to double their total, I would say, tables available. I don't know the exact terminology which they use, or the positions available for providing to their customers the gambling options. And the way I think overall travel tourism is shaping up, and overall, I think, when it comes to having this kind of entertainment, perhaps is the only medium available on the listed space. So keeping that in mind, we have a positive outlook on Delta. It's a company in which we have invested for many years and not seen any great returns. But I think now it's reaching a point where it'll start to perform pretty well. They have a large plan to set an onshore casino as well, a complete kind of I would say, hotel come convention center, as well as many gaming positions over there. So that's a long-term plan, of course. But on the whole, I think the company certainly merits a more deeper look at it. And it could turn out to be a dark horse and a great winner going ahead. They want to hive off their digital subsidiary. Let's see how that also shapes up. But broadly positive on Delta. I think it's one company which has not lived up to its true potential. But it may suddenly change that from this point on.
Okay, so adding aboard, they've got plans to build an onshore casino and hive off their digital business. So there are a few long-term triggers for Delta Corp. Let's see whether they can realize it. Need to slip into a very short break. Dipan, do stay on.